Hi, I'm Alex James, and this is What's Your Story? And my guest today is Taira Foo. And Taira is a UK-based choreographer, and she's the founder and director of Hinged Dance Company. Welcome, Taira. I'm really excited to hear your story because I know you've been doing some fantastic work, particularly around mental health issues with your creativity during the pandemic. So fire away. But I like to go back. I really like to go back to when you started Hinge and then work forward. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. So I started my dance company in 2011, and prior to that I was teaching at colleges and universities, and I started to sort of create my own style. I started to really love the creative process and the creative outlet and what that gave me. So in 2011 I decided to start my own dance company so it would sort of give me that outlet. I was also, when I was teaching within the colleges and universities, I was creating story-based pieces, which I really loved, and I loved the outlet it gave me. But I also loved the way that it affected the audience as well, conveying that message and communicating that message through dance. I just found it really, really powerful. So I started my dance company, and we began our first performance was on a platform called Resolution, which is a platform for new choreographers and dance companies, and that's in London. So I applied to take a piece there, and we were successful. So it was my first piece of working with professional dancers and putting a piece of work on. And that first piece of work was based on the film The Soloists, which I don't know if you've seen it, but it's about a homeless violinist who's absolutely brilliant. He trained at Juilliard, and it's such an interesting story. So I wanted to begin with that piece. So I began my work with that piece, and I really liked it because it was a true story as well. And I found true stories to be more powerful, and I've always loved film. Like, I've always been very, very drawn to film has always, it's always taken me and given me so much and made me think about a lot. And that's kind of what I wanted to do with my company. Is I wanted to create this filmic experience for audiences. So within my work, that's kind of what I want to do, and I do that with the music. The music is always really cinematic and very powerful, and through my storytelling with my company. So I've done a few pieces of work with my company where we've performed at the place, that platform at Resolution, and we were awarded in the past for a piece called Prisoner 466, which was about the 27 years imprisonment of Nelson Mandela. And we were awarded funding from the Arts Council to do that, and that was such a great experience as well. Obviously, you know, that's a true story, a very, very powerful story, and that was actually part of that was actually shown at the House of Lords as well, through a producer that I was working with. And we've done a short film. So I've done a short film with my company, and that was in the San Francisco Dance for Camera Awards, and it got into New York as well. So we've done that. And in 2018, we were asked to perform in Snow Patrol's Don't Give In video. So that was really cool to do that as well. So I've done lots of different things.
Very diverse, isn't it?
Very diverse, yeah. Well, now within my work, because when I was performing, because I performed for 10 years as a professional dancer. I've always been, huh?
And a singer.
And yeah.
Mentioned that you have this.
I don't really talk about that very much, though, my singing. Yeah, so I performed in lots of different styles, lots of different like musical theatre, dance companies. You know, all my jobs were very varied, and I love to do all styles of dance. So this then comes together within my choreography work. So I like to blend styles. I like to mix styles because I think it gives me more to work with when I am telling a story as well. It gives me more to draw upon, and you know, whatever's relevant or feels right for that moment, I'll draw upon those styles. Also, I think it's really interesting for the audience to, you know, have a lot of different elements, or for me anyway, I like that. I like to see, you know, lots of different blends of styles being used, so I like to draw upon those. So within my company, and we've done quite a lot of different work, and now my most recent piece is a piece called Sick that I am working on.
Where did you get that title from? Why?
Do you know what? It's really strange. It just came into my head.
Because it's kind of, I mean, people use it, don't they? As well, younger people say, "Oh, that's sick." I don't know if they still
That's
do.
sick, yeah, yeah. And
I can relate to that. And now,
yeah, well, yeah, in all ways. It just kind of came into my head, like, do this piece, call it Sick, and it just stuck with me. And it was like just one of those things, like, whoo, okay. Right, I'm going to do this piece called Sick. And ever since then, I've just been so driven to do this piece, like more driven than any other piece. And, you know, I've had my company worked with my company for 10 years. It's 10 years. And it's never felt quite the right moment for me to really push the company, but now it does. Like, now I feel like I'm in the right place, in the right space. I've got the right, you know, mindset to be able to take this forward now. And all those years previously was just me, you know, learning about running your own company, learning about it, you know, getting that experience of working with different people, of creating, of what I really want to create, and, you know, my process, and developing my process as well. And so now I just feel like, okay, now's the right time for this. Now's the right time to do something with my company with this piece of work. So in October, we were awarded Arts Council funding. I applied for funding to develop this piece, Sick. And so it's based on one man's struggle through depression, and it raises awareness.
You didn't know then, of course, that this is not last October. This is before the pandemic.
This is, yeah, so this is in October 2020. We got funding to develop the piece. Previous to that, in the January, was that January 2020?
We've lost a year somewhere, haven't we?
Yeah. Oh, I know, absolutely. But in 2020 January, so
just before the pandemic.
Yeah, before the pandemic, I wanted to do this piece of work called Sick, and I applied to Resolution again to put the piece on there, because I thought, right, and it was kind of the only platform that I really know how to get my work out there. So you know, I've done it like 5 times now, and, you know, it's great because it helps me develop as an artist. It's a place to put my work, something to work towards. So I applied for it, and actually I didn't get in, and it wasn't up until a couple of weeks later that they said I was on the waiting list, like I was at the top of the waiting list, but a company dropped out, and so then I was able to go in and do it there. So we created in the first phase of Sick, a piece of work to go to Resolution. And this was before COVID. This was before COVID. We had no idea anything was going to happen. And what was really strange was, within the work, we actually had a section where we used black masks. So we had masks in the section, which was, you know, when all of this, and we were actually going to perform that work with the masks at a big dance convention called Move It, and we were going to go on with our masks and everything, and this was when COVID was hitting, and was like, guys, we can't do this, because it's almost, because we've got the masks on, it became too comical. So then anyway, Move It was cancelled because of COVID. And then, as you know, everything kind of stopped. We actually were going to perform, as you know, we were going to perform at the Edinburgh Festival. We'd got you know, a really great venue, one of the zoo venues, and we were going to perform our work there, but because of COVID, that got cancelled, so we weren't able to do that. Meanwhile, I was filling out an application form for the Arts Council to then develop the piece further, so I could get, you know, more funding to drive this piece on. And then the applications froze. So the applications froze and we weren't able to do that. So, you know, which is understandable. So what I did was I started creating work here in this space, you know, my, what I call my creative space. You know, I write my books and play the piano here. So I started working here, and I thought, you know what, even though we haven't got the funding, I can't move forward, I can do something with the piece. I can you know, still create and still try and make something. And within the piece we use black elastic. So and that shows the manipulation of the depression. And so I was working in this room with elastic and just, you know, just exploring what I could do with this piece of elastic. And then eventually the applications opened again, and in October I found out I was successful in my funding for the second phase. And so within this second phase, what that allowed me to do was create an original soundtrack with some fantastic composers, and extend the story further. So the story was about 27 minutes. We made it in this second phase, which we've just done, was about nearly 50 minutes. Wow. And so then I was able to create more storyline with that, work with artists to create more choreography, to create more story, to create more characters. And within this second phase, we also brought a dance psychotherapist in to work with the dancers to help them and me understand more about mental health conditions, and to also, you know, identify if anything was you know, happening with the artists, and, you know, how they might address that, and also to, you know, really strengthen the characters that they were portraying, and strengthen the story as well, to have this, you know, knowledge, to have this understanding of mental ill health, because that's really, really important to me, that comes across. We also worked with 3 mental health charities as well during this process. So, you know, because of COVID, I was delivering sessions online where I'd work with the members, and I would deliver creative and use creativity and dance as a tool to promote well-being amongst their members, and to help in that way, which I found they found really, really, really good for them, and they really enjoyed it, and they got a lot from it, which was great, which was brilliant. And so there was quite a lot involved within the project. So within my company, we're a story-based company. We tell stories, so it's really important for me that I get a story across to the audience, and that narrative is understood. Like, my mum can come in and understand, like, people can understand, or that because of the subject matter, that people can relate to you know, the characters or the story, so that they can, you know, have a better understanding of, you know, how they might help somebody that you know, someone they might think has a mental health condition. How can I help them? How can I, you know, so it's about, you know, bringing awareness around that. It's about, you know, beginning an open conversation about it. And in our very first in my very first performance of this at the Place in January, I came out of the show and I started hearing conversations. People were talking about when they were depressed. People were talking like, oh yeah, I remember. And it began a conversation. And I was like, this is why we're doing it. This is exactly why I'm doing this, is to begin that conversation, because it's incredibly hard to communicate. You know, I know there's a lot more awareness
stigma. There's always going to be stigma. And I think where I sit as working in therapy, I mean, years ago when I was at the hospice, I wanted to introduce art and creativity, because I think we put too much emphasis on using our mouths.
Yeah.
We don't perhaps encourage people to use their bodies. So art and creativity, other expressions where it kind of might feel a bit safer, perhaps, to express how you're feeling through movement.
Absolutely.
Through theatre. And also, I think, for me, like you said, facilitating conversations. And there are, I think, to be honest, I think just about every single person that I've ever met has a mental health issue, because we can't not be affected by things that happen in our lives.
Completely.
But I think there's this stigma to those that are perhaps, I'd like to say, brave enough to express them publicly, more publicly, or to come out, if you like, and say, I have this issue, or I have very bad days, or I don't like this, and this affects me. And I think if we could just perhaps stop being such perfect human beings and try to express ourselves a bit more.
Definitely.
This is sick is a fabulous thing from my perspective, because it's not only that. I understand you're going to be taking it to schools, aren't you?
Well, that's what I'd like our next step to be, to sort of tour the work. So at the moment, I am applying for funding for the next phase of the work, which would be to work with a producer to talk to venues and talk to different schools and universities and colleges, so that we can get the work out there, and that they can see a need for our work as well.
Right. And there is a need, Taira, because I was thinking that, this sort of thing goes hand in hand, does it not, with a whole project around mental health issues, and then this performance, and then talking about that, facilitating conversations. So there are going to be a lot more people, if you like, coming out with mental health issues because of the pandemic, because of the loneliness, because of the loss of job, income, relationship. There's been so many problems.
Absolutely. And even if people aren't talking about it, it's there's going to be so many people affected, and the worst thing to do is to suppress those feelings and to suppress those thoughts, because that takes its toll. Like, that has to go somewhere, and all that pain has to go somewhere, and it'll come out in some way. So the best way for it to come out is to begin a conversation, and to make people feel comfortable enough to have that conversation. And I think that's a really big thing as well. It's about everyone just being aware, like notice people, recognize things that people might be doing that is that's different, or that's not quite right, and not being afraid to say, are you okay? Or because the easiest thing for us to say is, yeah, I'm fine, that's our default, is, yeah, I'm fine, absolutely okay. And actually everyone says that, don't they? So it's asking twice, isn't it? And
I think as well, getting the message out, particularly to younger people. It's okay not to be okay. You're a human being, and human beings are not perfect. And this pressure, I think, to have these perfect lives and perfect everything being right, it's very damaging. So if you can get the younger people and younger children talking about stuff that upsets them and how they might deal with that, then they're not going to end up, older people, carrying around this baggage and always covering over the top, as you said, making it look tidy when actually their lives are not so perfect.
Yeah.
But have you ever had a mental health issue? Have you ever had depression or anything like that?
I have within this story, I have drawn upon elements of my own experiences. So, I have had very, very low moments, you
I'm
know.
really interested in this, you see, because I think that people are always hesitant to admit it. And the reason they're hesitant to admit it, and I was talking to one of my colleagues about this, is do you think it's the word mental and association with mental institutes
Yeah.
and being mentally ill, so you're not capable? Do you think that that's the word that we need to eradicate and perhaps say that it's a mind process that we're in, or
Yeah.
some other word for it
No,
that's
I know what you mean.
give that? Because as soon as you say, oh, so and so's got a mental illness, you immediately imagine that perhaps you're not safe, or perhaps they're
Well,
a bit.
you create your own sort. Yeah, I think you're right there,
And
actually.
I just think it's the words for it. So we need to find ways of reaching out, particularly to younger people, so that they grow up with a different attitude towards mental health, that
Definitely.
mental health is just as important as your physical health,
Mm-hmm.
your emotional health.
Definitely.
And it's this creativity that's coming through, that there are threads of it, and it's more acceptable now, and alongside all the other things that people are doing, I think it's fabulous. So
Oh, it's brilliant. And I worked with two mental health arts charities. One was Studio Upstairs in North London, and the other one was Inside Out Community in Sussex. And they were such a fantastic company. And they had a dance program, where their members joined in every week. It was led by a dance practitioner. And the amount of creative outlet that they had every week, you could see how much this was helping everyone. Like, everyone was so engaged. It was a moment where people could connect, especially within COVID. I mean, I remember one of the ladies saying to me, are you going to continue teaching? We really need it in COVID. I really feel like we need it. It's just such a valuable tool. It's such a valuable thing that we can use to help ourselves, is that creative outlet. So both of those charities are absolutely fantastic in providing their members with such brilliant activities that they were able to access in such a horrible time, and it's just done. Yeah, you can just see the effects. When I started teaching, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. You can really see how this helps people and how it gives them that opportunity to help themselves as well. Like, you can take things that from the sessions that we do, and you can use that in your own space. Like, some of my sessions, I began with like a grounding process, where I get the members to ground and really connect with the earth, just to feel that balance. But also, I used visualization as part of it as well, to sort of protect their space and make them feel safe within what they were doing. And some of these tools, you can use on your own when you need it. And it's that thing as well. Like, I've loved this little visualization that I use sometimes if I'm feeling like the room is really negative, or people are being really negative. So if someone's talking to me and it's like it's not great energy and it's very negative, in my mind, I'll just start to build like a little bubble around me, like this bubble, and then this negativity kind of deflects like that. But little tools like that really, really do help. And that's what I want to do with my outreach programs, of going to schools and colleges and universities to teach young people how to do this. You've got a tool bag here you can use. It's really helpful. And through like dance, I think it's a really good way of reaching young people, is through dancing. Because of the nature of my work, it's like, I think it will be very accessible to them. So it won't be like, oh, we're talking about this, or oh, it's like, no, let's watch this, now let's talk about it. And here's it just opens doors to many conversations. And I remember seeing things when I was school and being so affected by it, because you're at that age, aren't you, where you're so influenced by so many things. So yeah, yeah.
I call it secret mental health, because I think people secret it away if they're experiencing something,
Yeah.
until it actually grows too big around them, that then, like you say, people start to notice it. and but I think you, and then that makes it a more frightening place, because it does isolate you, like in
Yeah.
that this horrible thing is around you, and I could see that this person that you've created
Yeah.
is controlling,
Mm.
and I just think we kind of secret it away, because you hope that you're going to be able to manage it, that you can hide it, that you can manage it. And like you say, it just grows bigger inside then, doesn't it? Well,
Mm.
you're watching something, not only can it help you because you're seeing that actually somebody else who's written that or who's doing it is enacting what you're feeling, but it
Yeah.
will also give you a very safe point of reference to start your conversation.
Exactly.
Because you don't have to admit, actually, I relate to this because it's me. You can kind of hide in it secretly, kind of
Mm.
get your thoughts out and talk about them and get the okay from other people and test the water to see if people are accepting of what you've got to say, and then it gives you a point to share, rather
Yeah.
than having.
Absolutely. Just makes it easier, doesn't it? It's just makes that conversation easier. Oh, actually, I feel like that sometimes. Actually, I can relate to that. Or it's just easier to then
And it's
begin.
a scary place for people around it too, I think, because when
Yeah.
somebody is going through that, they lose themselves, or they can lose themselves to it, but you lose them, because
Mm.
it can feel almost like they're floating away and you just can't swim fast enough or
Yeah.
reach them to bring them back.
Yeah.
So having conversations and being able to express your feelings and do what through creativity, I think is a fabulous
Oh,
thing, because it's
absolutely.
safe. It feels safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Safer than if you're having to go and just talk about your feelings.
Exactly. Which is massively hard. It's just so hard to do, is to communicate, to communicate that. Yeah, it's very difficult. So it's making it as easy as possible, so people can have those conversations.
So where's it going now? Where and when will people see it? Where?
So we live streamed the film piece 2 weeks ago. So because of COVID, we had quite a few challenges in COVID. So before rehearsal, we started rehearsing in January, but just the day before our rehearsals, Boris was going to do an announcement, and I was like, oh, what is he going to say? Anyway, the day before, we went into the nation's third national lockdown, and I was like, oh my gosh, we can't make this piece of work. But looking at the guidelines, it was fine, because we were a professional company working, and actually doing a piece about mental health, which is more relevant now than ever. So we were able to rehearse, but obviously we had to work under guidelines to do that. I'd lost my rehearsal and performance space. So that happened, and I remember on New Year's Eve I was desperately trying to find a place to rehearse, but anyway, that was fine. And then, because we'd lost our performance space and an audience wasn't allowed, which I understand, we had to film the piece in our rehearsal space. So luckily enough, we're working with a brilliant filmmaker, Liam Hall, who actually lives in the village, Alex.
Wow.
He's fabulous. And I've always wanted to work with him, but this was a really good opportunity. So, he edited the performance, which was, we had to film it within like 2 hours as well. So it was like loads of pressure to get this piece of work that we've been working on 3 weeks for. So we've got that, and we live streamed that a couple of weeks ago on the 22nd of April. And the feedback has just been, it's made it all worth it. It really has. So that's been great. And then we made a backstage documentary to support the work, which was great as well. And they're all available on my website to watch. So the next stage of the work, so I'm applying for funding at the moment, and then to work with a producer to try and now get the work out there. So hopefully the next stage hopefully will happen in October, autumn time, and then in next year I'm hoping that that's the time to take it out there. that we can do that, and we can, you know, just reach as many people as we can with this work. Because I imagine, like, where we go, like wherever towns we go and we perform, we have it's like a map. So, you know, map, you've got all these like little roads, but we have these outreach programs where wherever we go, like, we are helping, you know, you're not going to help everybody, but, you know, you help one person, or you know, one that speaks to one person in that area. Brilliant. That's enough for me, you know. So yeah, it's to have that, and to just like see that, you know, that work you're doing is helping people, and just reaching out, and just, you know, like I say again, you know, opening up that conversation, and making it easier for people to talk about, really.
Fantastic. It really is a fantastic piece of work you're doing, and you know, I think it's lovely. And all of your work that you've done is always, I mean, you're always such a kind soul. I remember you coming and singing at the hospice for me.
Oh yeah, I remember. Gosh, that was a while ago, wasn't it?
A long, long time ago. Yeah, yeah. But you've always had a big heart. So I hope it really, really comes to fruition for you, because things do. You know, you're always paying it forward, aren't you, Taira? That's what you do.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And I can see. I really hope that it achieves marvelous things for you, and everything you want. I just wanted to just mention as well about the books. What happened with the books? How are they doing?
The books are good. Yeah, I've actually got 2 books coming out pretty soon. One of them is, well, I've got the Magical Adventures of Squishville, which I write those stories. So they are magical stories about squirrels that live in an enchanted village, and they live in these little mushroom houses. And through that, through those books, actually, I'm trying to sort of, you know, implement, have helping to build a positive mindset for children, so from a younger age. And then so I've got one of those stories coming out. I have Gary the Fish, you know about, don't you? Mm-hmm. Gary the Fish, you know about. I am working on.
Have mental health issues because he's in that bowl on his.
Actually, do you know what? He's a very positive fish. Yeah. He kind of doesn't he kind of lets things kind of happen around him. He goes through all of these turbulent times, but actually he's all right in the end. He has a very positive outlook. He has to, really. And then we've got The Adventures of Teddy and Bruno coming out in at the end of this month, I think. So that's, you know, I've got Teddy and Bruno, so a golden doodle and a pug. I decided to write a little do a little picture book about their adventures, because they have so many. So I thought, oh, it'll be nice to record these and share them, because why not?
Yeah. You're busy. You're very busy.
Yeah. So it's great though. I feel like I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky to be able to create, to, you know, have the opportunity to do that. So I'm like, I just feel like I'm creating and making stuff all the time, which I love. You know, I love to do that. That's, you know, I feel like that's my element. That's my, you know, I just love to make stuff. I like to have something, like walk into a studio, not have anything, come out at the end of the day and you've created something. You made something that wasn't there before. You know, same with books, and, you know, and I always speak through stories. So I tell stories through dance. I do the same through the books, obviously. And yeah, and it's kind of, yeah, I love it. I'm very lucky to be able to do that. But everyone's creative. Every person is creative. You know, we're humans, so we are, you know, I just think that some people access it easier, or allow themselves to access it easier than others. But we're all absolutely creative beings, definitely. So
how do people get in touch with you? Anybody seeing this that wants to know more, anybody that would like to be involved, how do they get in touch with you?
So I've got my website, www.tairafoo.com, and all my details are on there. All of my, you know, my work's on there. I've got, you know, everything about me is on there, including my contact details. So that would be the best place to go, really.
Okay, well, we'll put it on the end of this film. And
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.